Hi, my name is Barry Auchettl, and the Auchettl is actually Italian descent, although with this accent I'm from Australia. And my journey into this whole area about eyesight and vision started back in 1992. And in 1992, I took my son to a behavioural optometrist who suggested eye exercises to him. Now at that time I was a school teacher and I was teaching accounting and computers and I'm thinking eye exercises, give the boy some glasses. And I think the universe must have been laughing at me because at that point I didn't believe that you could do anything about eyesight. When I was 17 years of age, I was given glasses for seeing long distance. By the time I was 32 years of age, I was in multifocal glasses. In other words, I needed glasses for seeing distance, close up and astigmatism. And I remember going back and I remember being tested, and they tested me with one eye and they closed this one eye and they say which is clearer, one or two, and we've all experienced that. And I would go 1, 2, 1, and after a while I felt like I was making it up just so that I could appease the optometrist and be correct and get the right answer. And then after about 15 minutes, he'd cover the other eye that's been in darkness for 20 minutes. And he'd say, now, which is clearer? And by this time, I didn't have any idea. So I used to sort of 1 and 2. And so I figured as long as I varied it a little bit, he was happy. And then somehow after that, they gave me this pair of glasses. And every time they gave me a pair of glasses, I'd always go back and say, these feel too strong. And the optometrist would say, and most of us would know this, would say, you'll get used to it. In other words, your eyesight will deteriorate sufficiently to match your new lens. And that's the way that the medical model has really operated for all these years, that we give glasses to correct an eyesight issue, and then we continually do that. And for most cases, in my own case, every time I went back, I got stronger glasses. And they would say, make sure you wear these all the time or your eyes will get worse. And so diligently I did that, but somehow my eyes got worse. And so I thought to myself, there's got to be a different way. And the catalyst came back when I was in this optometrist chair and I said, these feel too strong. And the optometrist said to me, well, what do you expect? You need these glasses, you're in your 40s. And I said, hang on, I'm only 32. So immediately I was starting to think, what's going to happen when I'm 42, 52, 62, if at the age of 32, I've already got a pair of glasses which are designed for people in their 40s. So I went home that day when the optometrist gave my son some eye exercises, and I started thinking, what can I do? And something must have triggered in me. And I thought my goal at this stage was not to improve my eyesight. My goal was to stop my eyes getting worse. I was wearing real thick glasses of about -5, and I wore them all the time. I put them on in the morning, I did everything I did, at the end of the day I took them off. So the very first thing that I did is I started the day experimenting, not putting them on straight away, and just seeing what it was like. And I found that I could function, that I could do most of the things. And then an interesting thing happened as well. I remember going to a drawer and I opened the drawer to get a spoon, and the spoons are just there and I couldn't see the spoon, and I panicked. And all this emotion came up in me. So I grabbed my glasses and I put them on, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, that's better. And it was my first inkling that I thought, what's going on here? What happened to all this emotion that I just had? And I put the glasses on and they all just went, something just smothered it all down again. And I'm not saying the emotion went away, I just said it was just gone. It felt like it was gone with the glasses on. And so what I did is I then started experimenting and working out what can I do each day. So I started recording how long I went each day not wearing glasses. And I started doing some eye exercises myself, and I even started doing things like reading books about personal development, meditation, anything I can get that was about what's going on here. But I wasn't all that serious because I wasn't really too sure about what was going on here. It was just a bit of a personal experiment. So I didn't tell anyone, I kept it fairly secret. But what happened is that 2 months later I went back to the optometrist and I was given single lenses. That in 2 months I was now actually able to read without glasses. And to me that was like astonishing. And I was going something like 4 or 5 hours a day without needing to wear glasses at that point. And so I started getting very excited about this and started to look up programs and started to find out who else has done this, because I didn't know anyone else that had improved their eyesight. And so I started doing about 20 minutes of eye exercises a day. I started meditating. I started really noticing about what I was seeing. And I can remember one day I was then driving, and I was driving home, and the only thing I needed my glasses for at the end was for driving, because I still legally had to have glasses while I was driving. And I was driving through the city, and I remember seeing perfectly clearly. And I got to the very last set of traffic lights. And at that moment, I realised I actually had forgotten to put my glasses on. And as I blinked and opened my eyes, everything became blurry again. So much so that I physically had to put my glasses on. And that was the second sign, I think, for me that really stood out, that there was something more about this than just the eye exercises and glasses and what's happening to our eyes, etc. That there's something else going on, because I was seeing perfectly. I had this one thought about that I can't see without my glasses because I was driving, and literally that's what happened. And so I continued working with that, and in 6 months I actually managed to pass a driver's license with 20/20 vision. So at that point I no longer needed glasses for reading or for driving or for distance. And that was quite a remarkable process in itself, and I was really excited, and at this point I was hardly wearing glasses anyway. And by that stage I'd gone through a number of whole days without wearing glasses at all, and allowing a lot of natural sunlight to come in and things like that. So it really was quite transformative. And people already were noticing, particularly when I went to work for the first time without glasses, and I was really self-conscious because, I'm thinking everyone's going to be looking at me, I'm not wearing my glasses. And the librarian came up to me and said, "Didn't you used to have a beard?" But she didn't even know. The people just pick up really quickly, and within a day or two, it wasn't even an issue for people, that I didn't have glasses on. They just accepted that as part of who I was. And I was probably a bit more self-conscious about that. So as a school teacher and as an academic, people started then asking me, can you show us how to do this? And I actually created an educational model as opposed to a medical model, because I believe that optometrists have their role, and I'll explain in a moment how it was really vital even in the continued process. So optometrists have their role of checking eyes, of checking for eye diseases, a whole range of things. Where I was able to specialise as a vision educator is I was able to take the exercises that a lot of optometrists may or may not give anyway and adapt them in such a way that people would actually do them. And I found that by people doing some of these really simple eye exercises, that they would actually have an improvement in their physical eyesight, in most cases within 10 days. And we're not talking about throwing their glasses out in 10 days, we're talking about improving some aspect of your eyesight so that you get to see that it's actually real for yourself. Because there's nothing like seeing that it's real for yourself to keep going in the process, as opposed to a theory it's possible for someone else. So I started putting together these programs, and people started asking me to run classes, which is what I was, by this stage was already doing. The interesting thing then is that 2 weeks after, I actually went back to the optometrist. We became friends, and he was quite excited by the process of what I did. And what he did, he had this new toy, and he used to get me to check out his toys, and it was like I had to look central, and we had all these flashing lights around which I had to press when I saw these flashing lights. And I remember sitting there for 5 minutes waiting for him to start this machine. And he said, "Barry, what are you doing?" And I said, "I'm waiting for you to turn it on." And I turned my head and had a look, and the lights were already flashing. And he discovered that even though I had passed a driver's license with 20/20 vision, I actually had no peripheral vision at all. And within 3 weeks, I was operated on for a pituitary tumour that was sitting on my optic nerve. And that was changed my entire life virtually instantly. The first thing that happened to me is I thought I was going to die. The doctor literally rang up and said, "You need to be here Tuesday for an appointment or you'll be dead. Have a good day." And so I went into this grief process, saying goodbye to people really. And, and my children and my wife. And then I was actually operated on about 3 weeks later for this tumour. And they said to me when I got to the hospital, "You shouldn't be able to see at all." And then I started telling them about all the exercises and things that I was doing. But what happened, if you can imagine, you wear glasses. Glasses will make your eyesight look directly ahead. So I went from wearing glasses and seeing like this to taking them off and seeing this much and thinking that was terrific. Whereas in reality, there's a whole world out here as well. And that whole peripheral vision of seeing what's on the outskirts and things like that. And I didn't know about that at the time. So I went through this process, and that was a huge shift in me. And the processes like meditation and reading about personal development that was sort of interesting in terms of getting rid of my eyesight then became crucial in terms of me being alive. And I went through a process then of rehabilitation and coming back through that, and really from that moment how I see vision and eyesight changed. Because for me, eyesight is about my ability to how I see an eye chart or how I physically see in the world. What this vision that then became more important about was my greater vision of how I see the world. And that became much more of a focus for me. And even my physical eyesight was still expanding because I was starting to see things like energy and auras and all these, extending things beyond what we normally can see within that visual range. I was just continually extending that visual range. So in 1997, I actually founded iPower, which was a service to help people improve both their eyesight and, more importantly, their insight. Because I discovered very early in the piece that as I became clearer about how I saw my vision of life, and as other people became clearer about how they saw their vision of life, our eyesight will take care of itself. And people have had improvement in their eyesight just by getting clear about what their life's purpose is and what their vision in life is. So I've spent many a year looking at those sorts of processes, looking at what's actually going on behind our eyesight. What are the things in life that we don't want to see? Really interesting. And the one I ask most of my clients, and most of them have never even thought of it, is why did you get glasses in the first place? What was going on that you went from not needing glasses to needing glasses? And for a lot of people, they say, "Oh, look, I was studying," or "I was a little bit busy at the time." And I just invite you to go a little bit deeper and look at what's underneath that. What was really happening in your life? What emotionally, what was going on? What stresses were going on? And it gives you some indication about what was happening. And as we can work through that, somehow our eyesight will adjust by itself. Actually, he put an expression on a book that I wrote, and the expression was, the clearer we see ourselves, the clearer we see the world. And I think that's such a true process of how I've really continued through life. And I've continued that now through eyesight, through my own eyesight, and through developing programs and courses for people around the world. And in 2015, which was just recently, I actually spoke as the keynote speaker at the World Vision Educators Conference in LA. And there I talked about a process which I talk about called Open Your Eyes. And Open Your Eyes is looking at how to improve your physical eyesight, how to improve your vision of life, and more importantly at the moment, how the two are connected. Because I'm finding that there is a connection between both our physical eyesight and our vision of life. And even for myself, in the last month while I've been travelling around the world, I've noticed a shift again in my own physical eyesight as I'm expanding my own vision and connecting with just amazing people around the world. And so for me, this is a continuing process. Yes, the eye exercises can help get us going. They can make a difference in our physical eyesight. The key to it is to really expand that whole concept of vision and expanding our vision of life. And that's going to shift the process of having almost 60% of the population now wearing glasses. You know, it's quite a huge number where we have, 6 out of 10 people wearing glasses and almost 9 out of 10 people over 45 wearing glasses. And so for me, this is becoming an epidemic, a bit like the asbestos system in the late 90s, 2000s. The eyesight issue is going to be the big issue in the future. So much so that I even did a Masters of Education looking at computers and eyesight, and in particular the effect computers have on our physical eyesight. And I found that if you use a computer for more than 2 hours a day, that can have a detrimental effect on your eyesight. So yes, aging is an issue. Yes, branding is an issue because they're selling glasses now so much more easier than they've ever had. But the way we use our eyes of sitting at a computer all day and going home and watching TV is having, to me, a far more detrimental effect. And I'm not saying we should stop using computers. I'm saying we should be really a bit more careful about how we're doing that. And then at the end of the day, coming back and seeing how that fits into what it is that we're really meant to be doing in this life and how we connect to each other on a really heart-to-heart level. And that, to me, is about opening our eyes.